So we know who's at the top of the running back hierarchy at Ohio State. I'm Stephen Means. That's Andrew Gillis. It's Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins in whatever order you want to put it in. Carlos Lachlan now leading that room for Tony Alford, who left for Michigan, which created this domino of coaches moving spots, right, which we were talking about at one point. But the question is about the future of the room, but also who's running back 3, and is he good enough to be an impact player for Ohio State if they need him to be, especially with Dallin Hayden transferring to Colorado. And the name that keeps popping to everybody is James Peoples. Sam Williams-Dixon has also had a pretty good spring and a pretty good fall as well, according to Carlos Lachlan. But James Peoples was getting asked about the idea of being a freshman All-American, like the last Texas running back who was built like him did, a.k.a. J.K. Dobbins. Do you think it's possible that James Peoples, when you look at the schedule, when you look at the personnel in the room and what he's been able to do so far and the way he's flashed, is it possible that Ohio State could find out about its 2025 running back room in 2024 just because James Peoples puts any worry, any minds not at ease because of what he's able to do in 2024?
Well, you asked me the All-American question about James Peoples, and I kind of thought, oh, Steven's lost it. Steven's losing his mind. It's officially happened. And then I thought about it, and I was like, well, Quinshon and Travion, they're talking about them as we've got this great tandem. And then what do they say? Oh, when it comes time, we can rest them. We can keep Travion off his feet and get Quinshon in the game. And we can keep Travion in the game and get Quinshon off his feet. And we can have this kind of dichotomy of just, hey, we don't even really have a 1 and a 2. We have like a 1A and a 1A. That's kind of the way that they're talking about the top of this room. What happens when it's 42-0 against Akron? What happens when you're playing Michigan State and it's 38-0 at halftime? And go on down the line, because Ohio State doesn't play a big-time team every couple of games, right? Like, there's not like a build-up like there was last year for some of these games. There's going to be a stretch. Like in November, they play Northwestern, Indiana, and Purdue. Those are games where James Peoples can really see some significant time. So that's, I think, actually a really interesting question, because if James Peoples can be this team's third reliable running back, then yeah, it's certainly possible, because if he even gets a handful of carries every game, you might look up at the end of the year and go, James Peoples got 110 carries and he got 600 yards rushing? Okay. And you can look at James Peoples going, he got that with this running back room? Wow, that's really impressive. And I think that we could be in for a situation like that, because not only do you want to keep these guys off their feet, Ohio State as a team should be in a position to blow some people out this year. And if that happens, Travion Henderson's not playing when it's 35-0 against Indiana in the second or third quarter. That's just not going to happen. So James Peoples can absolutely rack up the stats to do that. And I think we noticed this in spring practice. The first thing I noticed was that lower body, he looks outstanding for a college running back. Oh, he's a freshman? Like, he just looks built like a stout college running back. Really impressive, really, really impressive player. So, yeah, I think the confidence is there. He was very, very, you don't want to say boring because it sounds mean, but he was kind of just very basic during his interview. And then somebody asked him a question, would you be ready to play against Akron? He goes, yes, sir. I came here to play. And I was like, that's exactly the kind of confidence you want to see from a kid like that, because he's going to play against Akron, and he's probably going to play for the rest of the year. So I don't think that a question is crazy where you can look at James Peoples and go, you know what? This kid's going to be a really good running back, and he might be a really good running back for us now, and we have no worries about him going into 2025 when the first game of the year you better know because you play Texas.
I think that's the key with both Peoples and Sam Williams-Dixon. Can they spend this year making sure fans can look at the running back room when Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins are gone and go, everything's going to be fine. And running back, you can do that a little bit more as a true freshman, because it is a position, not saying there's no development to it, but your natural gifts take over quicker. Maybe than other positions, there's not as much development as maybe the offensive line or quarterback or any of those other positions. You kind of are what you are, and you just go from there. I think they can do that. I think there's a chance we get to spring and we're going, the only reason why James Peoples and Sam Williams-Dixon, who at this point, I think he's just going to stick in the running back room. I think the concept of maybe he doesn't stick long as a running back, that's over with. But I think we get to the spring and look back on this and go, the only reason they didn't play more is because 2 of the top 5 running backs in the country were on their roster. And fans are going to be really excited about what's coming next with James Peoples and Sam Williams-Dixon, and obviously Bo Jackson and Isaiah West in the recruiting class as well. There's a mindset shift. going on in that running back room. Carlos Loughlin, probably the most intense human being I've ever interviewed in my life. With everything he does, it translates onto the field with these guys. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. How did they distribute the carries between Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins? Not to keep them happy, but to get them through a potential 16-game season. And Dallin Hayden, I mentioned Dallin Hayden in 2022 got 100 carries. And some of that was because of the injury plagued room that was. Travion Henderson still has not shown us he can get through a full season without injuries. As you mentioned, there might be some games where there are some favorable matchups where the game might be decided at halftime. I'm not going to say that James Peoples is going to get 100 carries, but if he gets 75, I don't think that's that crazy. And I think he can do with those 75 carries more than what Dallin Hayden did with his 100 carries in 2022. I'm Stephen Means. That's Andrew Gillis. We'll continue to talk about this wherever you find podcasts. Go listen to Buckeye Talk and get the text. 614-350-3315. 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. Talk to you guys later.